Coming off the Golden Week holiday, that is why the podcast is technically a day late. I've got that holiday vibe going on. I'm all relaxed. I'm all chill. I was questioning whether to get one out, but then I thought, I have this one last day before I go back to work. Everyone's out of the house. That's when you do a podcast, when everyone's out of the house. In the last episode, we had a police officer who was the extra man in a extramarital affair. The husband found out that this police officer was doing things with his wife that they're not supposed to be doing and threatened to kill him, and it turned out to not be such a good idea. Well, here's another situation. Police officer liked a woman. The woman has a boyfriend. Jeez. So I guess you just give up and move on with your life. I mean, there's lots of people in the world. You can find the one for you, or you take the only logical course of action. You look up the boyfriend in the police database, and then you hunt him down to his house and threaten him. Because that's going to work. First of all, if you want to look at this, I do often want to look at this from different perspectives, but the romantic point of view, this is a love thing. I find this woman attractive. I want to attract her. I want to be the man she falls in love with. What is she going to find most appealing about me as a person? The fact that I do really creepy things and threaten people's lives. Romantically speaking, will this work? So is this a kind of woman who's going to find you illegally accessing a database to get information about a private citizen so that you can go to their house and threaten them? Is she going to find that attractive? That's question number one. And I'm going to bet for most, like statistically speaking, the answer is no. A lot of people are not really going to go for that. So he could have tried to be charming, so charming in fact that the woman leaves her boyfriend, or he could have gone this circuitous route. Circuitous. He could have tried to go around this problem and then try to take care of the man by himself. So he went for the more, in some ways, more direct way to get rid of the competition. And if you get rid of the competition, then of course she's going to fall in love with you, which again, because you clearly have creepy, weird, and violent and scary instincts, might not be the case. He called the boyfriend multiple times to threaten him. He said, "Check your car. I think it's broken." Now, this is a problem with translating things from one language to another. And in Japanese, I didn't, of course, get to hear the actual Japanese or how it was said or anything. That might be threatening. Like in Japanese, they don't have a lot of bad words. It's the way you talk to people, you talk down to people and stuff. That implies that you look down on them and there's a violent threat there, maybe. So how you talk to someone is actually more important than what you say to them sometimes. Check your car, I think it's broken, isn't a very good threat in English. So you got to take that. There's an element there that we're missing in the translation. He also said, "What do you think will happen if you don't break up with her by today?" So I think there's more of an implicit threat there. There's more of like, I will murder you if you don't break up with her kind of feeling that goes with that statement, at least. So the second one felt like more of a threat to me in English. So I would like someone, a more nuanced, someone who has a more nuanced understanding of Japanese to explain how the first threat is a threat. I mean, is he saying I messed with your car and it's going to like explode? Did he say like, you can't trust your car anymore? I don't get what that threat was. The victim, the boyfriend, did a very logical thing. He filed a complaint, a damage report with the police. And of course, the cop was immediately found out because they just have to go check who accessed the database to get the information about this guy who's claiming that some cop is calling him. The guy's login credentials are there. He's caught immediately. He said, "I'm very sorry to the victim," which I don't actually believe. This is one of those ones where if he hadn't been caught, would he have been sorry? So this is now a new sort of like psychological, philosophical experiment. This is more philosophical experiment or question to ask. Like, if someone halfway through their bad act actually stops their bad act and is sorry for what they did to another person, that's real. But if you get caught, it's clearly going to take away any sense that you're actually sorry for what you did. So I don't think he's sorry. Just like every other person we talk about in Japan, he's not sorry for the victim or what happened. He's sorry that he got caught and he didn't get his way and he didn't get what he wanted, which is part of the entertainment, I guess. Burger King in Japan is the little guy. I've been out of the West for long enough that I don't know who the major players are in fast food. I'm assuming McDonald's is still basically number one. When I listen to other podcasts, they talk about Taco Bell a lot. I was never a fan of Taco Bell. I don't hear a lot about Wendy's, but I mean, there was a Wendy's near my high school, so I was kind of indoctrinated into Wendy's very early in life, so I'm kind of a Wendy's stan. But Burger King was always kind of like, for me, a secondary one. I would go to Burger King if it was available. I would never choose Burger King. I don't have anything against Burger King. I don't have any problem with Burger King. But Burger King in Japan is looking to expand. It seems like they're looking to expand all over. Like they're aggressively trying to expand their presence in the fast food wars. In the last few years, they've gone from 77 restaurants in Japan to 352. So that is like 3 to 4 times more increase in volume of restaurants. So that's pretty significant. So they've actually been successful in their effort to try to expand their presence in Japan. They want 600 restaurants in Japan by 2028. So in 2026, they want 2 more years. They want to double essentially the amount of restaurants they have in Japan. The way they want to do this is they are offering 40 million yen to any franchise owner of a rival chain to convert their restaurant into a Burger King. That is a lot of money. And I mean, let's face it, if you run a franchise for McDonald's or a franchise for some other company, for Moss Burger or something, one of the Japanese hamburger chains, the real question is how much loyalty do you actually have? Like, do you care that you're serving McDonald's food or Burger King food? I think at the end of the day, all you're really going to care about is the money you bring in. So yeah, this is it. I don't see any loyalty if you're a franchise owner. If someone comes and offers you a better deal, you take the better deal. That just makes sense. The stipulation is that you have to have been in business for 3 or more years. So they want to know, like, you don't just open a restaurant and then immediately say, I'll take your 40 million yen. And then switch it over to a Burger King. Because maybe you've chosen a really bad location. Maybe you're not making any money. But if you've been open for more than 3 years, you're at least surviving. That's maybe important. In my little town, there's essentially a McDonald's. There's a Zoteria. They've just changed their name recently because of some holdings companies did some finagling. Zoteria used to be Lotteria. And then there was some other company, a holding company that bought them. And they changed the name to Zoteria. And it's just getting worse. Like the naming conventions are just getting out of hand. The fact that you're naming it after the holdings companies that own the restaurant and not making a name that sounds good is a little weird to me. Completely side note, if you've been running your Zoteria for 3 or more years, you can take Burger King up on this offer to convert your Zoteria into a Burger King. Burger King will also cover half the initial investment to switch, and you have to do it before 2028. So this is on the table for now, and this is part of their plan to expand to 600 restaurants by 2028. You can take part in that. If you are a listener of Ninja News Japan and you own a fast food chain franchise, I'm hungry. There's nothing I can do for you. I'm not part of this. I just report the news. But I'll look for sponsorships. You want to sponsor me? I'll take a sponsor. Japan is putting a lot of effort. Not Japan. I mean, it's the companies within Japan. But Japan has a big problem with scalpers, as it seems like every country in the world has a problem with scalpers. I don't buy a lot of stuff that has any sort of pop value. Like they're not popular things. Probably the most recent one that I actually would have had to deal with something similar to this was the PlayStation 5. When I bought the PlayStation 5, I of course wanted it basically right away. Couldn't get it right away. Had to join lottery systems with different stores and different companies. And then when your name came up, then you could buy a PlayStation. And that was to stop scalpers from buying 500 PlayStations and then selling them at 10,000 times the cost on the internet. Scalping is a big problem. We've done a couple stories of scalping with Pokemon cards and Pokemon goods. Pokemon Store has a lot of issues with people just coming in and trying to buy everything. Bic Camera in Ikebukuro has set up a system where if you want to buy Pokemon cards, you have to pass a quiz. The quiz is 15 questions. Now, they didn't give what the pass-fail rate is. So, like, what is the pass? Do you have to get all 15 or do you have to get, like, 7 out of 15? Like, they didn't say what the passing score is. I'm assuming you have to prove you're a true Pokemon fan. So I'm betting it's actually pretty high. Like you have to get 11, 12, 13 out of 15 correct to actually pass the quiz. The 15 questions are taken from a larger random pool. So if I take the quiz and then I go and tell you all the answers to my quiz or all the questions so that you can look up all the answers. You're going to do a quiz. It's actually going to be a slightly different quiz. They might have some of the same questions, but overall there are a bunch of questions, and you're going to have to take the quiz legitimately every time. You're not allowed to use your phone. If you try to use, I mean, of course not. It's not really a quiz. You're not really a true fan if you have to look it up on your phone. The questions are all in Japanese. So this is already, there's multiple problems here. I'm not a scalper. And if I wanted to buy Pokemon cards for my kids, let's say, I would not know any of the answers to the quiz questions. And I wouldn't be able to read the Japanese questions anyways. So I would fail on that. That's a whole separate issue. So one is a legitimate issue, whereas I am not allowed to buy a product because I don't know enough about the product, background, history, fandom. I don't know what you want to say about that. The issue for me is that's not really fair to me, but at the same time, this is how scalpers get multitudes of these tickets. So they get a whole bunch of random people all going to buy, and they give them like $1 each or whatever, and then they collect it all, and that's how they get all this stuff. They scalp it on the internet. I'm against scalping, so I'm willing to sacrifice my inability to buy Pokemon cards, which I don't actually want, so that other people don't get scalped. So I actually am pro this as a thing. The Japanese quiz, though, that means foreign people can't buy these either. And that could bring up a bit of, again, a ethical question. Is this okay? But you're in Japan, and if you want to buy stuff from a Japanese store with Japanese fandom, I guess a certain amount of Japanese is expected. I came to Japan with a black belt, and then I wanted to get my 2nd degree black belt, and I wanted to get my 3rd degree black belt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In Japan, I thought that'd be really cool. I did 2 of the tests. They have a fighting part, so you cha-cha-cha-cha and you fight and you get points. And then they have kata, which is like a formal presentation of some very set moves. And then they have a written exam. And a written exam for a sport to me always seemed really weird. I could not read the kanji, the Chinese characters, on the written exam. So the first 2 that I did, they were very nice. They got this Japanese high school English teacher who also did judo. He ran his judo club, come to the test with me. And again, this was all voluntary. He would translate the question, and then I would answer in English, and then he would write down the answer for me. So the questions weren't necessarily difficult. It was like the history of judo and some other stuff like that. But because of the exam and the amount of trouble it would go through to actually pass the exam, I actually stopped doing the exam. So I don't know what level I should be in the belt system anymore. I know I'm way below what I probably should be, but also in my head, I'm like, it's not worth it. And it's one of the things, once the belt is black, I mean, if you have 3rd dan, 4th dan, whatever, who cares? No one can tell the difference. It's still a black belt. An investment company representative did what a lot of investment company representatives do. He went to a very high-end hostess club. Hostess clubs are clubs. They don't really exist in the West. I've never been to one. A, I couldn't afford one. B, I don't think I would enjoy the experience because you basically go and drink, and then they have these girls come over and sit at your table and drink with you, and they're encouraging you to drink, and then they talk, and they're very charming, supposedly. Because I know it's fake, I don't think I would enjoy it. So I went to the Japanese Hooters, and it's not the exact same thing because you're not paying those prices, but the girls are pretending to be nice to you, and they're pretending to like you. And I immediately go, she doesn't like me. This is fake. So I'm going to sort of not be a jerk, but I'll at least try to play with the format a little bit. So I kind of reverse hit on her by just insulting myself the whole time. But I didn't want to be there. I didn't enjoy the experience of going to Hooters. Hooters is not the kind of place I want to go. A hostess club, to me, is even a worse version of that because it's way more expensive. They're trying to get you super drunk. They're trying to get you to think you like them and they like you. Or they're trying to get you to think that they like you for realsies. And that to me is the problem. It's sort of this underhanded, dishonest element to it. Because if I went and I actually thought the girl liked me and I liked her, and it turned out to not be true, I'd be sad, but not as sad as the man who we are talking about because he had a really good time and he believed that they had a real connection. So they started messaging back and forth on Line. Line is the instant messaging service that is most popular in Japan with older people. It seems young people are now have all moved to Instagram, whatever. It actually gives you a sense of how old the people are now, if they choose Line or Instagram for their way of communicating. After a few months, of course, he went back to the Hostess Club many times. He showers her with gifts and he spends a lot of money. He's an investment banker guy, so he's got a lot of money. Via Line, he said, "Please, absolutely become my bride." And then she replied, "I love you. I will become your bride." So then she further wrote, "Make me your bride. I love you." And then he gave her more and more money and presents. So I could see how someone saying, "I love you, make me your bride," would convince you in some ways that she might actually like you. I think that's a pretty fair assumption to make. If you're saying "I love you" and someone says "I love you" back, you might be able to convince yourself that that's real. So I have a lot of sympathy for this guy, even though I hate investment bankers. I'm very torn on my feelings on this man. Let's put it that way. I have a hatred towards what he does because I know he exploits people for money. But then also, does he necessarily deserve to be cheated in love? Maybe if he fell in love for real, he would actually turn around. No, he wouldn't. He would just spend more money on his girl and nothing else. Christmas Eve 2021, he gave her a 35 million yen ring. And he claims to have given her over 2 billion yen in presents and money he spent at the club. 2 billion yen is the lottery. So the fact that he has 2 billion yen, if I had 35 million yen, if I had the money he spent on her ring, I would not have to work to my retirement age. Like, that would be enough money for me to live from now to retirement and still be okay for a very long time. 2 billion yen, I would never have to work again. I could not only live my lifestyle, I could increase the quality of my life and the life of my family for 2 billion yen. Yeah, that's lottery money. In January 2023, she cuts him off. I assume unceremoniously. She just stops responding to his messages. He gets angry because he says, "You've told me you love me, you've taken 2 billion yen of mine, and I'm really upset about it." He files a civil lawsuit claiming he was deceived, which I actually agree. I think he was deceived. He's seeking 38.5 million yen in damages. So the ring alone, he gave her one ring that was worth 35 million yen. So 38.5 million yen in damages is a very low number. He's not really trying to get back that money he spent at the club and the drinks, other presents, other things. Because if he spent 35 million yen on one present for one time, other presents were worth millions and millions and millions of yen. So he's not even going after the big sum of money. He's just trying to get a little bit. This is almost like a moral victory. At least if you give me this money back, you at least will not have gotten the really expensive ring that I gave you. He claims she maliciously manipulated him and his romantic feelings, which again, I actually agree with. Now, irokoi eigyo is exploiting a customer's feeling for gain. So this is usually hosts. Hosts get girls to come to clubs, and then they get them into debt, and then they try to get them into compensated dating or porn or something like that. Now, the laws have been updated. So this is primarily about host clubs, but it applies also to hostess clubs. In this case, the court has decided that the woman's actions do not meet the legal threshold for marriage fraud. So he was at the court class. The case was dismissed. The guy gets nothing, and the girl gets her 2 billion yen, and she gets to walk away. This is a case where I would actually like to know how other people feel about this. This feels like fraud to me. Because she said, "I love you," because she said, "Let's get married," because she took the money, because she took the 35 million yen diamond ring. I know it's not an engagement ring, but it certainly is going that way, and never sort of put this guy and said, "Look, this is a professional relationship," or anything like that. She was exploiting him. But then I go back to the very beginning of when I started talking. You should know that going in there. I go into Hooters and the waitress is nice to me. I know she's not really nice to me. She just needs to do that to get paid. They don't really work for tips in Japan, but I'm sure you get paid really well if you're a very popular person. If you go to a hostess club, they're getting paid to make you think they like you. They're pretending to like you. So it's not really manipulation anymore, because you should know that going in. So when a hostess says, "I love you," you should know 99% of the time that's probably not true. So do you think this guy should get his money back after spending this much money in this situation? Should this guy get his money back? You can leave a message at speakpipe.com/chunkmcbeefchest or send an email to chunkmcbeefchest@gmail.com, and I would like to hear your opinion of this situation. A man was leaving a business deal. He was walking. He'd been walking for about 10 minutes, and then suddenly a stranger splashes orange liquid in his face. This is assault. This could be terrorism. We don't know what's going on here. Of course, you freak out. Someone throws orange anything in your face, you freak out. That's just how I respond really negatively to orange. Let's be really clear about that. The police arrive and start asking questions. It turns out they ask questions about the business meeting that the man just had, and it seems like he's just collected 13 million yen from someone, and they're like, wow, that's a lot of money to be collecting in cash from someone. Let's look into that a little closer. These are actually good police officers. So they've moved past the initial assault and said like, hey, it's actually suspicious that you have this giant bag of money with you. Let's look into that. Turns out the guy who was the victim of the orange liquid throwing was a scam artist who had just defrauded a woman with an investment scam. He was promptly arrested. If you're a criminal, so this is it. If you're a criminal, Ninja Japan is very big on criminal advice and trying to advise people how to be the best criminal they can be. Only because I think if you can take these tenets, these ideas, these facets of being a good criminal and apply them to your legal life, you can also improve your work, your job, your home life. There's a saying amongst criminals: if you're going to commit a crime, only commit one crime at a time. So this poor man, he had committed a crime, and then he was the victim of a crime. Now he had to make a decision. I don't know if he called the police, but someone called the police and he hung around. He should have left. He should have let that other criminal get away with it and just left the scene, and he would have walked away with his 13 million yen scam that he was successful in. But because he decided to stay, because he decided to try and get his money and get that other guy in trouble. And this is, again, the sort of Icarus flying too close to the sun kind of thing. Because he did all that, he ended up getting caught for his scam, and the other guy probably still got away, because now the cops are going to be focused on what? Some guy who threw Fanta in someone else's face versus a guy who just scammed an old lady out of 13 million yen? The cops are always going to go for the big one. I mean, when you get your bag, you got to cut and run. This is something I've had to say to friends when we played video games. There's a scene in many, many movies where the greedy person is holding on to something. Like they're hanging off a volcano and holding on to a bag of gold, or there's a bag of gold in a treasure chest and they're holding it and it's sinking and it's pulling them down with it. And all you have to do is let go. This guy didn't even have to let go of the bag of gold. He had to hold on to the bag of gold and not attack another person, but he couldn't even let go of that. If he had let go of that, he would have been fine and actually got to keep the gold. So my original metaphor doesn't even work. We've all been in a situation where we've been away from home and we don't have enough money to get the train or a taxi or something back home, so we're kind of stuck, or you run out of gas or something like that. This man was in a similar situation. He didn't have the money for the train. It's 4:30 in the morning, but you're a creative person. You have a creative mind. You know how to use your brain. So he has a big brain thought. He goes into the women's bathroom and he sets fire to a wall in the women's bathroom. Now what happens here? What happens now is that the fire department arrives with one of those big trucks, and all the firemen get out of the truck and they run in to check the fire to see if it's under control. Now, what they do is they leave the truck running with the keys in, because if they have to hook a hose up to the truck to start pumping water in to put out the fire, they don't need to turn off and turn on the truck and stuff. So what do? You get in the fire truck, free fire truck, and you get to drive home. He got 9 kilometers away from the train station before the police caught up to him. The fire engine was returned, but it had some front end damage where it had ran into something. Now, the thing is, fire engines in Japan, they're really small compared to like Western fire engines, but they are stout machines. They are still trucks. So a truck that hit something has not only, if it's taken damage, it has certainly done damage to that other thing it hit. I would really like to know what it hit. So between the 9 kilometers from the station to where he was caught by the police, there is something that is extremely damaged, and I would like to know what that is. But I'll tell you right now, this was not a really good idea. A doctor climbed into the ceiling above a hospital's duty room around 11:30 p.m. The sad part is, as soon as I read the story, it's so interesting in the circumstances. I knew I was not going to get a why, and which leaves my brain going. But having enough experience with Ninja Japan, I know it was a creepy, weird reason. I mean, that's all we really have to say. I mean, probably our imaginations are more exciting than the actual reality of the creepy reason, but it was creepy. A female doctor was working in the room and she spotted a hand emerging from the air conditioning vent. So, in what world are you sitting in your... Okay, Japanese hospitals are creepy. I mean, there's a reason a lot of horror movies in Japan happen in hospitals because they are just inherently creepy places. They're all pretty blank, and that actually is sort of a weird aesthetic to go for. And I understand it's sort of industrial and functional, but it does make it very, very creepy. So if you're sitting in a place like that and then a hand starts emerging from a vent, that is going to freak you out. Like, there's no way that works out well. She called the cops. The man was promptly arrested. They said there was no doubt I entered the ceiling, and they gave no motive. Now, the thing is, okay, so he's in the ceiling. There's a woman sitting, let's say, at a desk. He reached out of the vent. His arm's not going to be long enough to reach the woman, I don't think, in any real way. And she was able to see it because he's not invisible. What did he think was going to happen? This is the psychological question I need asked by every police officer so that they can put it into the report, or at least the reporter to ask so they can find out. What did you think was going to happen when you climbed up in the ceiling? This is a doctor. We have this false idea that doctors are smart. Now, doctors are just people. Now, they've maybe done a really good in medical school, or they're maybe really smart in one way. I am a full believer in there's a variety of kinds of intelligence. I think there's social intelligence. I think there's like book smart intelligence. I think there's like all our good con artist intelligence. I think there's like physical intelligence, like just knowing how bodies move and stuff. And all these other sort of like minuscule applications of the different kinds of intelligence. So he may have been a very good doctor. I'm not even going to argue that. But he was lacking a very specific kind of sort of common sense intelligence of, should I climb up into the ceiling and reach my hand out towards a colleague who's working at a desk at a hospital at 11:30 at night? No, you shouldn't. But this is also the same guy who might be giving you very good advice about your health or what medicine you should take. Or maybe he's a surgeon or something and he's really good at it. I don't know. What I do know is that being a doctor doesn't automatically make you a smart person. The idol world is a whole different world. So I think if you live outside of Japan, you have this image of Japan as being sort of like all this underground culture stuff. But underground culture, subculture is still sub even within Japan. So I live in Japan and I don't experience any idol stuff unless I went out of my way to look for it because it's a different world. I don't really like the music. So there's really nothing for me there to really enjoy. People who do like it, I'm not putting them down. If that's what you like, that's fine. I think it might be a little weird and creepy for adult men to be, watching 15-year-old girls dance and stuff. I think it's exploitative. I think it's wrong. I think a lot of the stuff they do shouldn't be done. But also, I'm not in charge, even though clearly I should be. So idols live in a whole different world than the rest of us. And a lot of it is exploiting the weird parasocial relationship between the fans and the idols. Again, this is like the earlier story. You should know what you're going in for. The idol doesn't really like you. She just wants you to spend money on her goods, on her product, and then coming to her show and stuff like that. And she wants to keep that relationship going. The thing is, if you're an underground, so there's idols, the ones you probably know of and heard of, they have like advertising agencies and big agencies behind them, and they have a bunch of rules and stuff. These underground idols are just basically little freelance gigs. They make their own products. They put on their own shows. They're all really small. And so the amount of income they get is wholly dependent on how successful they can be with these parasocial relationships. So they need people to come. And one of them has blown up recently. Harida Matsumoto has started to let fans smell her armpits after shows. And of course it went viral. It went viral for all the reasons it should go viral. You have creepy old dudes in the video that is most commonly seen on the internet right now. Is he's acting like a puppy dog, and then he like smells her armpit and he's like, meow, meow, and he's doing like that kind of stuff. Very, very off-putting. He's in that age range where he would be ripe for a story on Ninja News Japan. She is also at the alternate end of the spectrum where she is also right at the ripe age to be at a story on Ninja News Japan in the worst way possible. So there's a lot of criticism of this. And again, I end up exactly where I was with the hostess club story. Like, if you know this going in and you're willing to spend the money and you understand the reality of it, it's fine. If the girl understands the reality of it and she's comfortable with it and she knows what she's doing and it's all sort of above board, it's also fine. It's when one group starts to exploit the other group, it goes too far and it's wrong. But am I in a position to judge that? I've never done it. I've never seen it. It does seem like too much because they have handshaking events. And then they have hugging events. And we had the Korean idol who hugged and then the girl kissed his neck and ran away and she got in trouble. Like, this is all priming the fans to feel more than they should, but that's to get them to spend more money later. At what point is it exploitation? At what point is it exploitation is the actual question I think I want to ask that I don't have an answer to. Smelling the armpits brought up a lot of criticism online. And I think that's fair because is this okay? Is it not okay? Because this is an old creepy dude and a young woman. Is it okay? I don't think it is. It feels wrong to me. Certainly if that was my daughter, I would not want her doing it. I would lose my mind if I saw something like that happen. But that's my morality, and am I imposing that on someone else? I don't know if that's okay. For me, I think it just comes down to if everyone is on board from the beginning and knows the reality and doesn't slip into the parasocial relationship where they're now experience feelings that are not real or are not reciprocated, that's a problem. And that's such a fuzzy zone to exist in, but that's exactly where they have to exist to be successful. She is making her money, and that's what a lot of people are saying. Like, she's doing what she needs to do to make her money, so how are you going to complain about that? The Ground Self-Defense Force, 1st Infantry, revealed a new patch and logo. It's an elephant holding a machine gun with a human skull sort of on its chest and a blue flame coming out of the left eye, and it was created by AI, and I don't know which part I'm most offended by. The patch itself looks pretty badass, but it's incredibly aggressive. It's sort of... Why they chose an elephant maybe is the first one. Like, that's not a Japanese animal. You think if you're going to make a logo for your Japanese military unit, you would use a Japanese thing. Doesn't necessarily have to be an animal, but if you're going to use an animal, use a Japanese animal. There are lots of cool animals in Japan. They have lots of cool symbols in Japan, like the family houses and stuff, so you could use one of those. There's lots of old samurai stuff, so use some old samurai stuff. But online, they were actually saying this is way too aggressive. The Ground Self-Defense Force, because it's not the military, because it's not an army, because of the rules surrounding the military in Japan, they are not allowed to be the aggressor. They are not allowed to invade other countries. They are not allowed to put boots on the ground in other places. They can only offer support. They can only offer to help people. This is part of the Constitution of Japan, which Takaichi is trying to change at the moment. She's actually just changed it so that she can sell offensive weapons to other countries. France, India are super happy about this because they want to buy some Japanese Gundam because they're going to start selling those parts and then build up their different Gundams from different countries. We're seeing that coming very soon, I'm sure. The aggressive nature of the patch actually drew criticism from people who saw it online. It took 1 week for the GSDF group to say, we have received a variety of opinions. The unit's logo was created with the purpose of boosting morale and enhancing a sense of belonging among our members. However, we must also emphasize the importance of gaining proper understanding and approachability from the public. So that's it. If you see someone with like really aggressive patches, like the Punisher skull on their chest and this like violent elephant on their shoulder, that might not be someone you trust and want to walk up to, whereas peacekeeping missions are primarily what the GSDF is supposed to be doing, so they should be approachable. That's actually the point. We have decided to discontinue the use of this logo. Weirdly, the thing I was most offended by is that it was done by AI. Like, why are you using AI? You got hundreds of people in the military. They work for you. They get paid by you. Get one of them to design one. Get one of them to draw it. Like, tell them to draw the violent elephant. It's the AI bit that I actually got more offended by personally. It was the AI bit that I actually didn't like, because you have people in the military who can draw and who would love to design a patch. First off, yeah, I get that the theme is supposed to be friendly because it's the GSDF and they're supposed to be approachable. I actually kind of agree with that, but they're also supposed to be tough, strong people in the military. So, Let them be tough and strong and do some cool, scary elephant stuff. But don't use AI to do it. That just sucks.